evening to you, and what we're going to do tonight, and we're just going to have a gab session with the preacher. And we've got Brother Steve Hughes with us here tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about the church and the history of the church and everything, and about Steve, of course. And we do ask that you just kind of tune in every night this week at 7 o'clock, and we'll have something new for you every night up till Thursday night will be the last night of the new year. And but if you want to tune in every night, we'll have something for you. Brother Steve's going to be preaching one night, and of course we're going to do this interview tonight. So just keep in mind these things, and as we discuss them. First of all, I'm thankful, to be pastor of the Newark FWB Baptist Church, and I've been here a little bit over a year, about a year and 3 months, something like that. And believe me, it's been an experience. I mean, especially through the pandemic, and I never thought we'd have to ever go through anything like this that we've had, but it's been an experience. We have done a lot of tapings down through the year before we was able to get back into the church and have service. And Brother Steve has been the guy that's actually been doing all the photography work and editing and having everything put online. He's a very smart man. But anyhow, we come together today, and I want to talk to Steve a little bit about the history of the church, because I think it's pretty interesting how everything got started. So I'm going to ask Brother Steve if you just kind of give us some insight about how the church got started and until where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe the year was 1973, and it was not Bill Atkinson, Dan Booth started the church. It was a mission of the Franklin Conference. Well, actually, I believe it was actually a mission from the Westerville Church, but of course, Westerville Church is in the Franklin Conference, so that. But anyway, so he came to Newark with the mission to start a Free Will Baptist Church, and we were a mission until I believe it was 1978. And so starting out, we were in a restaurant called Dagwood's.
Dagwood's is kind of like a buffet where they was eating. Yeah. And we're still eating today, believe it or not.
Oh yeah. But of course, the building's gone now, but you can still drive by where the building was. But that was until, I'm trying to think, what year? Let's see. It was, they're probably there for about maybe about 5 weeks, I think it was. They were at the Dagwood's restaurant. And after that, they moved into a building which is behind the current post office. It's kind of in the corner there at Locust and First Street. And so they were there for probably about a year. And what's interesting to me is, so earlier this year, I think it was back in, I want to say September maybe, there was a revival at Gabb'n Free Will Baptist where Brother, is it Curtis Booth?
Dana.
No, Dana is the brother. I think Curtis Booth is, Curtis Booth's the pastor at Gabb'n. But anyway, so Dan came to Gabb'n to preach the revival, and of course, my grandpa was a Free Will Baptist preacher. He was a pastor at Fairview Free Will Baptist up in just north of Utica. And he told a story that I had never heard before, and my mom had actually never heard before, which was very interesting because my mom remembers everything. But what it was, so Dan and his wife lived on, I believe it was St. Clair Street, which is kind of a little bit north of downtown. It's in the historic Hudson district. And I guess he was walking down the railroad tracks, which the railroad tracks go right behind that second building I was telling you about. Like I said, it's literally right in the corner of the bend of the street, and the railroad tracks kind of come across there. And he came across this little boy, and this little boy happened to be my Uncle Hank. And they got to talking. I mean, you weren't worried about strangers back then. I mean, way before my time. But so they struck up conversation. Well, Dan had told Hank that he was, a Free Will Baptist preacher, and he had a church there. He told him where the church was at, and he said, "Well, my daddy's a Free Will Baptist preacher," and that's how my grandpa Willie Holly and Dan Booth got to meet. And so they became, good friends. And from what I understand, they kind of helped each other. Dan would help him at Fairview. My grandpa would help him kind of with Newark. So that was that. Well, I think it was in '76. Dan Booth, I don't know if he'd move on to another church or what, and Bill Atkinson was the pastor for about a year, from '77 to '78. Of course, they were still I think they were still in the Antiques building or not. Of course, again, this is all before my time. I'm just going off of, what I've been told. But eventually, so after that, they eventually moved to what's known as 5 Point. It's where 5th Street, Locust Street, and Granville Street all come together. So basically, it's a 5-way intersection. And there was a huge building. This is probably, now I believe there was only maybe 2 stories, but the size of the building itself, it could have almost been considered a 3-story building. That building, of course, has been torn down. It's a parking lot now. And they were there for probably 2 years. I think it was from '74 until '76. So, yeah, maybe they were already, they must have already been out of that when Bill Atkinson was there. But they were there. So eventually what they did is they kind of had a trade-off. There was a church, I believe it was the Assemblies of God, owned the property we're at now. And so basically we traded the property. There was an old house out front of the building here where they met. And so we traded with the Assemblies of God. They took that building. We, took this. Eventually built where we're in now. And then in '95, I think it was, is when they had the groundbreaking for the gymnasium and the classrooms. And so through all that, we went through, I shouldn't say went through, that sounds like a bad term. But there have been 8 pastors so far here at the church. Of course, you're one of them. There's been Brother Dan Booth. He was, of course, the first pastor. He's the founding pastor. Then there was Bill Atkinson. And then Brother Floyd Wolfenbarger, which he was very well known in the Free Will Baptist circles. Matter of fact, the Free Will Baptist hymnal, which we don't use here, we use the old Redback Church hymnal, which I feel like most churches use, even regardless of their denomination. But Brother Floyd Wolfenbarger was actually very big into the new Free Will Baptist hymnal. Yeah. And so, of course, unfortunately, he had passed by the time that it was, printed and fully published and everything. But it was actually under Brother Floyd Wolfenbarger that the church was founded as an independent, incorporated church. And then, of course, was incorporated into the Franklin Conference and everything. And that was in, I want to say, '78. Is when they joined a conference, and like I said, we're self-supported, so they were no longer a mission. Went from a mission, went to a church. And then we had Brother Dan Booth as pastor again. I don't know what the story behind that is, but apparently he came back. So
sometimes it's hard to get rid of some of us. Yeah. We just keep coming back.
Yeah, I'd have to ask that about him sometime, because I have his phone number now from, like I said, where we met up at the revival. Like I said, a couple months ago, so I'll have to ask him about that sometime. What exactly was going on? He came back. Now, what's ironic? Okay, so we have Johnny Ray as our assistant pastor now, and I realize I'm jumping all over the place. Unfortunately, that's the way my ADD brain works. But in between Floyd Wolfenbarger and Dan Booth coming back the second time, that was the first time that Johnny Ray Davis was the interim pastor. So he's been the interim pastor 3 times. So he was the interim pastor between Floyd Wolfenbarger and Dan Booth coming back, which Dan Booth came back in 82, I think it was, and then I think he left in 85. And Johnny Ray was then the assistant pastor again after that, between Dan Booth and Steve Stidham. Steve was here from 85 to 87, and then after that there was Roger Dempsey. He was the interim pastor from 87 to 88, I think, and then Jim Lilly came, and he was here from 88 until 94. From 94, Bob Bryant was here. And that was actually the pastor. Bob was the pastor when my family started coming to church here, which was about the year 2000. 2000 to 2001, because I think I was in first grade, so I was about 5 or 6 when we started coming here. And let's see, Bob was here from 94 until 2008, I think it was, when he retired and moved to Tennessee. And then Brother Matt Bryant, the pastor before you, he was the interim for a few months, and eventually he took the church and was the pastor for 10 years, from 2008 until let's see, it was December 31st of 17 was his last official day. And so after that, then Johnny Ray took the interim again, and then the rest is history. I think everybody else pretty much got that. So after Johnny Ray interim for 3 years, and that was his 3rd time as interim pastor, then you came and preached 3 services.
Here we are.
And we loved you.
Yeah,
here we are. But no, so it was, like I said, the building here itself, like I said, I believe it was built in 84, I believe is when the first service here was. So like I said, 84, that would have been under Dan Booth, I think, would have been the pastor when this building that we're in right now was built. And then it was with Brother Bob Bryant. He was the pastor when they did the groundbreaking, and then had the gym, the classrooms, and everything on the back building.
Yeah.
So, like I said, pretty much the rest is history with that.
There's been a lot of things happening here at Newark FWB Church, and now Brother Steve, he's not only one of the ministers in the church. He just recently, 4 months ago, was licensed by the the Franklin FWB Baptist Conference, and in 8 months he's up for ordination.
Yeah.
On that, and I will say that he's doing a great job. I enjoy his preaching, and there might be some other churches out there listening to this. A little interview right now, and maybe if you need a little help from time to time and would like for him to come over to preach for you, I'm sure that he'd be glad to do that.
Certainly.
The only bad part about it is he's our song leader now. Wallace was the song leader for many years.
Yeah. So probably from, I don't mean to interrupt you, but probably from, let's see, I don't remember exactly what year they started coming, but I mean at least 70s or 80s. I mean they've been here, and Wallace has been the song leader since then.
They've been here a while, and if you talk to Wallace says, "Man, I'm blessed all the time." But anyhow, Steve's doing the song leading now, and he does a great job of that. He's got one of those opera voices, big, strong, baritone voices, and it just rings out, and he does a great job on that, and we appreciate him doing that. And we've actually, since I've been here, we've got him to sing a little bit. Him and I and my wife, we sing a few songs together, and he's been doing a great job of that. But I wanted to ask you, when was you called to preach? Just how long has it been since you've been called to preach?
Right, so I announced my calling on, I believe it was September 16th of 2012.
2012.
So it's been a little while since I had surrendered that call to preach, to being more active in the ministry. There were some obstacles, some certain things that happened. I don't want to get into that right now, but some things that I let kind of get in the way that I guess you could say I kind of pushed the ministry and that kind of stuff aside. But I knew it was still there. And God dealt with me with that. Matter of fact, I'd even started going to other churches during that time, so probably from, I believe it was around 2013 until 2015, I was still technically a member here, but I had actually been going down to Somerset, Community Free Will Baptist Church, down in Somerset, where Brother Scott Hutchinson's the pastor. So I was going there for maybe about a year, maybe 2. And then I was going to my grandmother's church on my dad's side, my dad's mother. She goes to Church of Christ, and I've always been family there. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of a de facto member, I guess, in a way. I'm on their books some way. I saw they did a thing back in, I don't remember what year it was, but they did kind of like a directory thing, and I was in there for some reason. So like I said, they've always loved me. They loved me coming to sing for them and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I was kind of involved there for about a year, and finally I decided that enough's enough. It's time to come back to the Free Will Baptist Church and make things right, whatever. So around, like I said, 2015 is when then we were only dating, but she would go, my wife Allison, she would go with me to these other churches when we'd go visit and stuff, and or while we were attending, I should say. And so we started coming back here. We got married in 2016. It was November 25th of 2016, and we'd been dating for 4 years because we started dating in November of 2012, and so we've been married for 4 years now. So that's 8 years together. We've been together, and she hasn't hurt me yet. So well, I must be doing something right.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Marriage is only what you make it anyhow.
Right.
I mean, you can make it work. 4 years, 30 years, 40 years, or however long it is. But anyhow, we certainly do appreciate Steve around here. As I said before, all of our tapings, everything you see on the Newark website, it's all, listen, Steve is in charge of all that stuff. He takes care of all that. He does our bulletin for us every week, and he keeps us updated on this coronavirus and what they expect out of people to do and everything. So he's had a big hand in just about everything that we do. He keeps us going, and we probably wouldn't have any of these programs if it wouldn't have been for him. So I certainly do appreciate it, and I know the rest of the church appreciates everything that he's been doing too. So we encourage you to continue to pray for him and pray for his ministry. I'm planning on breaking him in hard and trying to help him in any way that I can. And like I say, if there's other churches out there that this is shared with, and some of these preachers need some help, I'm sure he'd be glad to do that. Only bad part about it is, like I said, I'm probably going to have to lead the singing since he's gone. But anyhow, we do appreciate Steve, and we thank him for just kind of giving us a little bit of insight about the history of the church. And I personally would like to see the church grow. A lot of times when a church has a history of it growing and getting to a certain spot, and it seems like the crowd goes down and everything, a lot of people get discouraged with that, and they just kind of lose focus on things. But I still believe that God's got something for Newark Free Will Baptist Church. We are the only Free Will Baptist Church in Newark.
Correct.
So that's a plus. So, but we just need to keep praying for the church and praying for one another. Excuse me while I take a little bit of drink of water here. And continue to pray for all those that's involved in the work of this church here. We've got some great people helping us out and keeping things going, and we appreciate all that. We've got some good trustees and we got some good people here to help us out. Good piano player playing the piano for us. That helps. That always helps. Then we've got some musicians. Gary Salmons, he plays bass guitar for us and does a great job, and we certainly do appreciate him. But we've got a lot of people working together to get the job done, and that's what I'm thankful for. And again, I'm thankful that they allowed me to come and serve as pastor of the church, and we're just praying for great things to happen. So until the next Gabb'n session, just keep us in your prayers, and don't forget to tune in every night this week until Thursday at 7 o'clock, and we'll have something for you every night to end out the year, and we'll be ready to start a new year. So may God bless you is our prayer, and pray that you'll have a good evening, and see you tomorrow night.